Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Pervin Akter, Professor and Head, Department of Physiology. Today I am going to deliver my lecture on hypoxia. So, let us start. At first, the respiratory insufficiency. Respiratory insufficiency means abnormality in the normal function of the respiratory system. The cause of this respiratory insufficiency are inadequate ventilation, reduced gaseous diffusion through the respiratory membrane and the abnormal ventilation perfusion ratio. Now, the hypoxia. What do you mean by hypoxia? Hypoxia means the deficiency of oxygen in the tissue level, and the type of hypoxia. Hypoxia are the four types: hypoxic hypoxia, anemic hypoxia, stagnant or ischemic hypoxia, and the histotoxic hypoxia. And the hypoxic hypoxia means in this type of hypoxia, partial pressure of oxygen in the arterial level is reduced. Here oxygen carriage is normal, but the source of oxygen is less. It is the most common form of hypoxia seen in clinically. And the cause of the hypoxic hypoxia is deficiency of oxygen in the atmosphere, high altitude, and the disease condition are hypoventilation of the air passages, pulmonary edema, obstruction of the air passages. And anemic hypoxia, in this type of hypoxia, the arterial partial pressure of oxygen is normal, but the amount of hemoglobin available to carry oxygen is reduced. And the cause of this anemic hypoxia is lack of hemoglobin, carbon monoxide poisoning, and the abnormal hemoglobin. Oxygen treatment of this anemic hypoxia is oxygen therapy has limited value. 7 to 30% can be transported as dissolved state in this blood. Stagnant hypoxia, in this type of hypoxia, the blood flow to the tissue is so low that adequate oxygen is not delivered to it despite of normal partial pressure of oxygen and hemoglobin concentration. And cause of the stagnant hypoxia is reduced carbon dioxide, reduced cardiac output, reduced blood flow to the organ, impaired venous return, and myocardial infarction. And oxygen therapy has limited value. Histotoxic hypoxia, in this type of hypoxia, the amount of oxygen delivered to a tissue is adequate, but the presence of toxic agent, the tissue cell cannot make the use of oxygen supplied to them. Cause of poisoning with potassium cyanide and narcotics. Oxygen therapy has no value. Symptom is the headache, nausea, irritability and dyspnea, impairment of judgment, inability to perform complex calculation, increased heart rate, reduction in muscle working capacity, coma and death. Treatment of the hypoxia, oxygen therapy most beneficial as hypoxic hypoxia 100%, anemic hypoxia above 70% oxygen is beneficial, stagnant hypoxia less than 50% is useful, and histotoxic hypoxia oxygen therapy is unuseful. How do you mean now the cyanosis? Cyanosis is a clinical condition characterized by bluish coloration of skin and mucous membrane due to presence of excessive amount of deoxygenated hemoglobin in the peripheral tissue. And amount of deoxygenated hemoglobin is more than 5 gram per deciliter. Deoxygenated hemoglobin has intense dark purple blue color that is transmitted through the skin. And site of cyanosis is nail bed, mucous membrane, earlobe, lips, tip of the nose and tip of the tongue. This is the figure where cyanosis are seen. Type of cyanosis are central cyanosis, it occurs in the tip of the tongue, and peripheral cyanosis, it occurs in the lips, nose, earlobule and nail bed. Cyanosis occurrence depends on the total amount of hemoglobin in the blood, degree of hemoglobin unsaturation, and state of capillary circulation, and pigmentation and thickness of the skin. Cyanosis does not occur in the anemia and the polycythemia vera. Here the terms related, what do you mean by eupnea? Eupnea means the normal respiration, and tachypnea means where the breathing is more than 15 breaths per minute, and bradypnea means where breathing is less than 12 breaths per minute. Hypoxia means reduced oxygen deficiency at the tissue level, and anoxia means lack of oxygen in the blood, oxygen in the body, and hypoxemia means reduced oxygen in the blood. Here the terms asphyxia. Asphyxia means occlusion in the airway. Acute hypercapnia and hypoxia develops together. Now, the periodic breathing, it is an abnormality of the respiration called periodic breathing, occurs in a number of disease conditions. The person breathes deeply for a short interval of time and then breathes slightly or not at all for an additional interval, with the cycle repeating itself over and over. And type of periodic breathing are kinestroke breathing and the Byers breathing. Kinestroke breathing is characterized by slowly waxing and waning respiration occurring about every 40 to 60 seconds. And the basic mechanism of the kinestroke breathing is the person over breath, thus blowing up too much carbon dioxide from the pulmonary blood, while at the same time increasing blood oxygen. Then it takes several seconds before the changed pulmonary blood can be transported to the brain and inhibit the excess ventilation. And this is the figure of the waning and waning respiration occurring every 40 to 60 seconds. And this is the mechanism of the kinestroke breathing. The person over breath, blowing up too much carbon dioxide from the pulmonary blood and increasing blood oxygen, takes several seconds, then transported to the brain and inhibit the excess ventilation. The center become depressed and excessive amount, a period of apnea, carbon dioxide increases and oxygen decreases in the alveoli. After a few seconds, the brain can respond and the person breathes hard once again. So, in this way the cycle is repeats, and this is called the kinestroke breathing. And what do you mean by acclimatization? Acclimatization is the adjustment or adaptation of the change in the body to high altitude, are collectively known as acclimatization, and changes occur during acclimatization are respiratory alkalosis, increased RBC, increased vascularity of the peripheral tissue, increased ability of the tissue cell to use oxygen despite low oxygen, increased oxidative enzyme concentration in the mitochondria, and increased 2,3 DPG. So, more oxygen is released to the tissue. So, this is all about the changes occur in the acclimatization. So, this is all about my lecture on the hypoxia. Allah Hafiz.